101.8
WCR FM.
Okay, you're listening to WCR, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome back to the show Steve Howe. How are you, Steve?
Oh, I'm very good. Gary, how are you?
I'm not too bad. How's life treating you at the moment? Because we've been living in some very strange times.
Yeah, it's exceptional, and, we're all in this soup together sort of thing. So, yeah, it's been tricky, and it's up and down, and you're a bit of a yo-yo, and then there's the restrictions, and then there's thinking about how the world's going to pick itself up and get back on on the road.
Yeah.
But that's another story.
It certainly is. The last time you were on, we were chatting about your solo album, Love Is, wonderful album. This time we're here to talk about Homebrew 7, which is released on July the 30th. Yes. It's a perfect time to release this album, isn't it, Rick? As it's 25 years from the first Homebrew album, isn't it?
That's right, it is. Yeah. Homebrew came out kind of innocently on its own, and we've followed it up with 6 other volumes.
I mean, these are all unreleased tracks, aren't they? They date from sort of like the late 70s to up to 2016.
Yeah, that's right. Usually it's music that's, that demonstrates how I originally wrote it or another way that I saw the music before it was released. But on this occasion, being the 7th, I sort of thought it maybe was a great opportunity to zip up all my laying there wasted sort of music that I still loved and believed in, but it didn't seem to really be going anywhere, so I sort of package it in an unreleased homebrew project.
I mean, were some of these tracks ones that you'd actually forgotten about, or are these all sort of, do you sort of like, dip into these things from time to time and just think it's not quite right now?
Well, a little of both. I mean, each time I do a homebrew, I dig around in my, in my tape library, and I usually find things I wasn't expecting to find, and that happened on a few occasions here. But some of the music just was kind of, I tried it on some of the guys in bands, and I thought about it on my solo projects and things, but it just didn't seem to go anywhere. But it kind of went quite comfortably together in the usual sort of jamboree style of not having a fashion or a style to govern the album, but more of a selection of all the different things I do, from sort of jazzy stuff to folky stuff to occasional songs, and mainly kind of guitar twangy stuff.
I mean, because as you said, it's solo stuff. It's also stuff that you've done for like Yes, Asia, GTR. So it's sometimes when you put this, because obviously I'm a bit of a hoarder, and obviously it sounds as if you're a bit of a hoarder too. And you never throw stuff away? You always think I might be able to use that at some point. Well,
to an extent, yeah. I mean, there are things that go by the way, and I'm kind of glad to see it. If I wrestled with it and thought, well, I don't know. But, homebrew means that I like it. It's been part of my story, and this applies to the unreleased music too, because I didn't really know where all this fitted in, but it did sort of fit together to clear out the sort of hidden music that I'd been. But like you said, I am like you. I'm a bit of a hoarder. I do keep copies of things, and there's loads of examples of that, even in future things that are going to come. But basically, yeah, I do have a tape library, and I consider that quite a precious place.
I mean, I've always found with your work, it's not always easy to date. Sometimes you're listening to your music, especially with this collection here, and you'd be hard pushed to sort of like put certain tracks into a decade, because I've found with some of your music, some of it is, you'll sort of like put something out and it's like 2016, but it'll have that real 70s feel, and vice versa. Something in the 70s and 80s sounds way ahead of its time. So I've always found your work is never the easiest to pigeonhole and date.
Well, I'm kind of glad about that, because I'm not really like following fashions. I mean, I like to think, I might even like be at the leading edge occasionally of particular fashions, but like we were with Prog, but basically what a lot of my music is about a musician who doesn't exactly follow trends, but since I work in such a variety of different fashions, that also conceals what it is I'm up to, or when it was that I did that. And I suppose the only signal you can get on Homebrew 7 in particular is that when something sounds a bit kind of funky and a bit simplistic, then it's most probably early. It could have been recorded on a Revox or a 8-track DAC tape or something, you know. But there's a mixture, as you said. There is a mixture. It's hard to tell. And only in the sleeve notes do I indicate sometimes if this one's a sort of more of a retro than a sort of 2010 onward sort of track, you know, because there is a sort of flavour. It starts with the glider. The tracks that are in that kind of fairly simple mode, but also have a fresh drive. I think they stand out more as newer than, say, something like In One Life, which is like electric mandolins with a 6-string bass and some drum machining. That's quite ancient, but it still has some of the Howe charm, I think. I hope, anyway.
I mean, it would have been... Some people would have put this out in chronological order, but I feel the way you've mixed it up makes for so much more of an enjoyable listen, because you'll go 90s, 80s, 2000s, 80s, 70s. It keeps you, as a listener, it keps you on your toes.
And also launching into different styles, you know.
Yeah.
And that song I did later on. Oh, here's the album. That one called From Another Day. I mean, that's pretty ancient. But, you know, I had other recordings, you know, of with full-on stuff. But I thought to demonstrate that song, it might be nice just to do it guitar and voice, you know. But there again, you know, it's a juggle, you know. It's a kind of mix and match. Like you say, I didn't go for the chronological, recent to late, early, or early to recent. I just kind of followed my instincts.
And it's got a great feel to it. That's what I like so much about the album. The feel to the album is really good.
Good. Well, I do, you know, attend to the tracks. You know, I look at them, I make sure they're in pitch, you know, and if there's some fault, you know, we can fix most faults. Or if there's something needs doing somewhere, I'll do it. But in a way, what I like to do is also not overdub on something that's quite ancient, because I think the mood is already there.
Oh, without a doubt. Now, obviously, with this being a sort of like this, you know, sort of like draws a line under the first 25 years. Have you still got sort of like, you know, plenty of little gems that you've got tucked away that you can work on in the future with this homebrew?
Well, I mean, I kind of don't really want to say this kind of precisely, but you know, in this period of preparing seven could have been more like the usual 7, you know. Yeah. So in fact, I have 8 more or less prepared, you know. So I sort of felt that while I was doing, I thought 7 was going to be kind of what 8's going to be, but in the interim, I had this idea about the unreleased music. So I jumped in with the unreleased music, but I had this backlog of music from Asia and also from the trio album, New Frontier. So in fact, Homebrew 8 is pretty much ready to come out sometime later next year.
I mean, everybody now listening to this has got this. They're imagining this room that you're sitting in with like thousands and thousands of tapes there, going, "Oh my word, I'd love to have a rummage through there."
I mean, I keep things tidy. I keep things documented. I've done a lot of databasing recently, so that I'm not searching through old bits of paper to find anything. I establish, you know, what I need to know, you know, my listing of guitars, my listing of different things. So I like that. That helps me to keep organised. And you know, some people have said they've rarely met musicians who like to organise their music so much, because I actually like lists. You know? I got to think about it. If you can get a story on one piece of paper, either a list of tracks or an explanation of what you want, it has to be on one piece of paper, because you know, it has to fit. Somehow, any story has to fit on one piece. You know, it could be a prelude, a synopsis. But basically, all the projects I do start by being, you know, able to look at them on one piece of paper and say, well, this is a project. And that was the same with 8. You know, as I was thinking it might be 7, but 8 has become an organised structure where the tracks are, like I've been doing them more recently. You know, it has an album title, and I demonstrate tracks from that album, and then you go on to the next album that I've got tracks to show from. So yeah, I'm kind of excited. Kind of makes me lay back and think that I don't have to dig around to get a Homebrew 8. I just sort of have to pull out the files and press press the green button. But in due course, this is partly because Homebrew 7 is the first album on the restart of my own label, Howe Sound.
Yeah.
Because we have new distributors called Cargo, and they're terrific. And so this is like a step in that direction that I started, as you said, 25 years ago with Motif and then Homebrew 1 and things. No, but in fact, no, Motif was the first one on Howe Sound. In 2003, I think that was. But basically, all that feeling I have about my own label kind of petered off a bit when this problem came along, and yes, we're so busy. I didn't know what to do with Howe Sound. But it has become a good vehicle for a special side of my musical output.
Oh, without a doubt. And that's this album, Homebrew 7, is an absolute treat. It really is.
Yeah, and as usual, it contains my photos, which I've liked doing right from the word go. That I'm not like an artistic photographer really. I'm an opportunist photographer. I take pictures when I see them, and we combine that with the sleeve notes about the individual tracks and what instruments I play on them. But also I give a taste of my sort of slightly unusual photographic outings that I have. Sometimes they're just weird, wonderful stuff, or like this one's got quite a lot of nature going on in it because I haven't really featured that much. But yeah, it's a real combination package.
It certainly is. It's fabulous. While we've got you, it'd be wrong not to ask you about the brand new Yes track, The Ice Bridge. This is from the upcoming album, The Quest, which is out later in the year. This track, The Ice Bridge, wow, it really captures that classic Yes feel, but brings it bang up to date. I love it. First time I heard it, I was like, and repeat, and I listened to it 3 times over, and I just think it's fantastic.
Well, this taster, this is the first track, but I mean, there's the other tracks. There's 8 tracks on the album and 3 on the bonus CD. So this has been a very exciting project to do that we did, under wraps, if you like, while we got through this time, because there was no point in wasting Yes's talent. But also the goal here was not to attempt to, copy, reproduce, simulate anything Yes have ever done before. We thought, let's write this anew. Let's have all fresh material, nothing hanging over from the past. So all this material has really come about in the last couple of years, and most of it, as you might have seen, I said, was written actually before COVID, which I think is a very good thing because. Well, need I say more? But, there are tracks from last year that came together. But I think what we wanted to do was set a new bar for Yes, show that, we have the opportunity, so let's take it and let's do a great job. And the collaboration with Thomas Weber at Inside Out Sonny was just brilliant because, we're old friends. He released some solo stuff of mine back in the early 2000s, and we have a good relationship. But this was a challenge, this was a very adventurous thing to do, and we just felt that we keep the wraps on it until we know everything about it, we've delivered all the parts, and we've got all the artwork ready, and, we're kind of ready to go. A bit like, having a project properly organised. Yeah. And obviously producing it was an opportunity, I suggested, and they agreed to, because I've always, dabbled with that. I mean, I produced all my own records, but I know they didn't want it to sound just like a Steve Howe album. That would be pointless. But my experience in production from like 1964 with Joe Meek onwards, through Eddie Offord, through Mike Stone, all the wonderful people who helped us do the great records. All the time I've been learning. I think if you're a guitarist, you've got to be somewhat of a producer, because otherwise your guitar will be in the background, dull, dry, exactly. And nobody will hear it. So I think that Kenny Burrell was the first guitarist I noticed on his jazz records. His guitar always sounds the same. I'm sure he's always had a little bit, to say on how it is, because if you just leave it to other people, it might be buried, or it might be dull, or it might, might be too loud, it might be too trebly. So I think that side of me is much broader, really, because of the different experiences I've had in recording, from my early solo albums. I've had full orchestras and things like that. I've been learning about production. I wanted to, give that experience and quality to Yes, and I hope it's something that the fans and everybody likes.
Well, definitely the initial reaction has been fabulous to it, and I think what I quite liked about it as well was the fact that one of the reviews I read, or sort of one of the reactions I read, was somebody says, I love the way John has really grown into his role with this new music. He said it just sounds fabulous.
I can tell you that on Heaven and Earth, we don't even mention that album because he could not really get himself established as he wanted to, and basically all the past is history, as far as our recording experience. We made a lot of live albums and, DVDs and all that stuff, but this was a chance, and I hope I helped make John feel important, comfortable, and so he has matured, and he's singing in his own, totally his own way, and, that's all I ever wanted him to do, So basically he's come to the fore, and he's really produced some great vocals, really great. I mean, Future Memories is a really, really soulful song that you'll get to hear, as the album comes out. And all the tracks John is excelling on. Sometimes he does all the harmonies, sometimes it's Billy, sometimes it's me, or I do duet vocals with him on quite a few tracks. But on the Ice Bridge, that's John. He's taken the floor there, and deservingly so. It shows just what skills and talents he's got. Besides, he's a great all-round musician, wonderful guitarist.
Oh, yeah.
Plays some lovely, sort of rhythm guitar parts, but also his bass work is exceptional, which was why he played bass on the songs of my album Love Is, because since we've been working together, we've got close, and we can do all sorts of things together.
Well, it's definitely whetted everybody's appetite for the album, and it comes out later in the year. We'll just return to Homebrew 7. As I said, it's a wonderful collection, and I urge everybody to just get hold of a copy, sit there, whether you put it on in headphones or you just listen to it out loud, and just sit there and just go through the sleeve notes as well, because it's a wonderful collection of music, and I love all the background notes and everything. I think it just makes it for a wonderful, wonderful package.
Good. What about Space Void? That might have surprised you, but I mentioned a guy called Ilian Mimoroglu, who actually Amit Erdogan introduced us to in the 70s when his electronic music was coming out. And I mean, that's just that another thing, from the vault, if you like. I came across Space Void, and I thought, well, I'm just so tempted to include this. So besides music, there's also my sort of audio, sound value side that I like things. But yeah, I mean, songs like Outstanding Deal, that dates really back late 70s. But, I like where it's heading. So if I like it, then I think, well, it should be all right, with the people who buy Homebrew. So hopefully they'll agree.
Definitely. Wish you every success with it. Steve, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you once again. As I said, I wish you every success with the album and for the forthcoming Yes project as well. So,
all right, Gary, nice to talk to you.
Steve, been an absolute pleasure. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Lovely too.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
101.